Hey ladies and gentlemen, my name's Graham Desert. I am the founder and chief visionary officer for Roofing 101. And what I want to talk to you about today is the top things to look for in hiring a contractor to work on your house. And today, we're actually going to talk about the number one thing, and that is insurance coverage. So I'm going to address it from a couple different standpoints. I'm going to address it from what a homeowner should look for, and I'm going to address it from what's important for a contractor. So you contractors out there, you need to make sure you have that insurance. And you homeowners out there, when you hire a contractor, you need to make sure that they have insurance as well. So let's talk about that together, as a big old deal here. So number one, as a homeowner, you want to make sure that the contractor that you hire has general liability insurance. And what general liability insurance does is it protects your house when damage happens. So not protects your house as in, general liability insurance is this bubble around your property. General liability insurance is it's an insurance policy that covers any damage that is done to your property by a contractor when they're here working. So common things that happen would be, tearing up a driveway, maybe damaging a car, siding, breaking windows, damaging landscaping, patios, decks, porches, things like that. Worst case scenarios would be, a fire at the house, or, they tear off the roof and a rainstorm comes and water gets in, things like that. That is what the general liability insurance policy covers, okay? Super important to have because here's the deal. We are imperfect people making imperfect decisions in imperfect conditions. So with all that said, there is bound to be a mistake that happens. So what the insurance policy does is it covers those mistakes, okay? That's the homeowners insurance, or the general liability insurance, okay? Now the next one is workers' compensation. What workers' compensation does is that covers workplace accidents. Well, the workplace is your home. Contractors, when you hire a contractor, they come to your house to do the work. So this is the workplace, okay? So any accidents that happen on your property, you're liable for if they do not have workers' compensation. So that's important to know. Things that are super common, more so common than falls, you would think that a roofing contractor, when you do roofs, you're really susceptible to falling. Well, guys, for the most part, are pretty, they're pretty careful. Crews, the workers on the crews are pretty careful. Nobody wants to fall off a roof. When things get really careless is one, towards the tail end of the day during cleanup, things like that, getting cuts on your hands, bruises, things like that. Cuts and infections is probably a big one, okay? Twisted ankles, things like that turn into stress fractures, that's a big one. Falls do happen, okay? So you wanna make sure that the contractor that you hire has one, general liability insurance, and two, workers' compensation. Now the amount of insurance within that, typical for each policy is anywhere between $1 to $2 million in coverage. Now here's why the coverage is important. You wanna make sure that the contractor that's working on your job has adequate coverage. If you live in a $2 million home and they have a $1 million policy, that is not adequate coverage for a general liability insurance policy. What would happen if your house burns to the ground? That's a $2 million loss. To fully replace and rebuild your house, it would cost $2 million. Well, the contractor's insurance policy is only going to cover up to $1 million. So you want to make sure that they have adequate coverage for the home that they are working on, okay? And it's the same thing with workers' compensation. A $500,000 workers' compensation policy is not enough coverage. What is the worst possible thing that could happen on a job site? That's a question I don't like asking, but it's imperative for you homeowners to understand, and for you contractors to understand too. What's the worst possible thing that could happen? Somebody could actually die on a job site. That's the absolute worst thing that could happen. Not something that anybody wants or anybody to deal with. For the family, for the person, for the people involved, nobody. it is super important to have the proper coverage in case of the worst case scenario. Proper coverage is important. Okay. Now, from a roofer's standpoint, 2 things you guys need to make sure that you do. Number 1, get an umbrella policy. An umbrella policy is exactly that. It's an umbrella over the business. You never know when that umbrella is going to come in handy. You must get an umbrella policy. Talk to your local insurance agent, whoever you work with now. Ask them about umbrella policies and what you can put in. Very inexpensive, but that added coverage gives you peace of mind. The other thing you need to do as a contractor, the number 1 liability that we have is, yes, roofing is dangerous and accidents can happen on the job site, but even more dangerous is on the road. On the road, there is a higher chance and a higher probability of an accident. So you want to make sure that you have your workers, if they're driving company vehicles, they have adequate coverage. If they're driving personal vehicles, they have adequate coverage. It's super important. And here's the other thing. You want to make sure that you have a high enough dollar amount to cover the loss of an expensive luxury car. You get into an accident with a $200,000 McLaren, that's going to be a bad day. So you want to make sure that you have adequate coverage. Okay, so that's insurance in a nutshell. Now, as a homeowner, what you can do to ensure that your contractor has the insurance coverage you're looking for: 1, ask to see copies of the certificates. 2, you can actually call the insurance agent yourself. I have actually seen contractors forge documents and just make up the insurance company, make up the policy number, right? You actually must call the insurance agent to make sure it is a legit, true insurance agent, and make sure that the coverage is still valid and it has not expired. That is super important. There are a lot of fraudulent and fake insurance certificates out there. And then number 2, request to be added as an additional insured. Now, at the bottom of that insurance certificate, there's a section that says additional insured. You can actually have your name and your address listed on that certificate as additional insured. Now, what that does, when you are additional insured, when that policy comes up to be expired, you're going to get a notification. You just want to make sure that they have coverage for the time frame that you're doing that they are doing work. Now, in construction, whether it's a remodel or outside landscaping or something like that, something that is taking multiple months, super important. A lot of times with roofs, listen, we can get a roof done in a day for the most part. In most places that we work, we can get a roof done in a day. So it's not that dragged out. Really, all you need to do is call and verify. But getting that additional insured, that addition, will help you and give you that additional peace of mind knowing that you're going to be notified whenever that policy gets expired or becomes expired or is getting close to being expired. Those are my tips in regards to insurance. And remember this, guys, it is super important to have insurance coverage because we are imperfect people working in imperfect circumstances and situations and environments, making imperfect decisions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for watching. For more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. Ready to book your free inspection? Check the link in the description box for more information.